Dear listener. I need you to either like or dislike my video to help more people see the book. So, if you enjoy my book, please go back to the beginning and hit the like or dislike button, thumb up or thumb down button. I will also make chapter 1 and chapter 3 one video instead of 2 video. So, ignore it when you see them, I will have the word revised in front of those 2 chapters. When I first started loading up video, I was forced to do only 15 minutes per video. The more video I uploaded, the more time I was given. I'm doing this for future listener. Please let me know if there are any error. I'm doing this video without any help. And again, I will start Kush Sovereignty 2, Black Love on another channel, once I get 100 subscribers, YouTube, @Kush Sovereignty 2. Here's a brief summary of Kush Sovereignty 2, Black Love. The story continues with Mamaleon, Kush's grandmother on his father side of the family. Mamaleon is narrating the love story of Wanyényé que vu in volume 2, of the Kush Sovereignty series, continuing where Black Righteousness left off. It's a tale of love, war, and peace. After eliminating the city of evil and wicked citizens, Wanyényé que vu meets the final 2 people, including his wife, Aneya, and forms the justice system of the land, known as the Council of 12. Wanyényé que vu and his warriors get married, take control of the land, build a fortified city of faithful followers, and a military force that is ruthless and untouchable to the evil force of the Abenian. The mestizo grow to a population that span through southern Arizona and central Mexico. Furious about his progress, the Abenian leader is forced to show himself, but is forbidden to age war until a particular time. At that time near, the children and the elderly must return to Wanyényé que vu's hometown of Tallulah, Louisiana, until instructed by Sabaoth. Now, let's finish the final chapter of Kush Sovereignty, Black Righteousness. Chapter 24, Oadipu and the P of Hell. The warriors had all agreed that their new friends that they had just rescued had to travel with them. They headed toward camp to meet Axel. Not expecting the 3 space cruiser, Axel hid herself, until she identified Zubin and Defusa. Axel shouted, "What are you guys doing back so soon?" Zubin shook his head, "Too much to explain right now, but we must get in touch with Aldib, because a ship is to arrive tonight at, or around midnight, and we are not sure what he wants to do." Axel said, "There's no way to tell where he is, but he would call this an emergency." She pressed the emergency button on her wrist. Simultaneously, everyone's communication devices vibrated, allowing everyone to see everyone else's location on the device. Aldib called within 2 seconds. "What is it?" Aldib asked. Axel said, "We have information that day. Expected the ship to arrive tonight around midnight." Aldib said quickly. "Good work, and he will contact you later. Stay safe until you hear back from me." Aldib quickly called Wanyényé que vu, "There is a ship that will be here in about 4 hours." Wanyényé que vu said, "Stay put, oui. We'll be there in 3, and disconnected." Aldib said to himself out loud, 3? How in the fuck, you going to do that? Wanyényé que vu yelled the battle cry to the top of his lung and left Obe, Elia, and Elisha and their men behind while the rest got on the G-ships and headed to Cuauhtemoc. Meanwhile, Axel and the rest at Vista Hermosa rested, for Axel had already prepared a meal for them in advance. They waited for Wanyényé que vu and his battalion since Aldib and his crew were already hidden inside the main complex at Colonia Anahuac, awaiting Wanyényé que vu's arrival. 37 G-ships raced to Vista Hermosa, arriving just shy of 10:45 p.m. Wanyényé que vu radio in just before and arrived there to check everyone's location and the situation at Vista Hermosa. Leaving the space cruiser there at Vista Hermosa, Axel was upset because the only thing she did all day was cook. Wanyényé que vu smiled and said, "I opened his hand to her, here, read with me." A radio into Aldib for his location. But Aldib advised everyone to go black, because the ship was approaching quickly. Wanyényé que vu and the remaining G-ship stood there hovering over the lake's shoreline, awaiting Aldib's call. When the ship arrived, it appeared out of nowhere, with no trail or lights to detect. It just appeared, then the sequence began. A light first shone on the tower and blinked 4 times. While the ship rotated at 180 degrees, then back to 0, then 360 degrees, it happened twice before two large doors slowly opened in the lake, the water splashed wildly as the ship approached the shore. Once the doors were open, there appeared to be a force field that prevented the water from going inside the opening. Then the spaceship made loud noise, and the force field created a pyramid-like shape, and steam appeared. Wanyenyekevu and the rest of his warriors began their race to the location in a V formation, and the V formation quickly became a U formation. At this time, the spaceship began a TS 360 degree counterclockwise rotation, and a beam of light shone into the opening, Aldib Radio Wanyenyekevu, according to Jem, it's about to release the people inside. Just as Spock, you could see the people covered in a clear gel lowered down in the beam of light. Wanyenyekevu arrived right when the third person was being lowered into the opening. By this time, they were in their formation and surrounded the ship. Wanyenyekevu ordered all speedsters to go up in the ship by the beam. Grace, Axel, and two more speedsters ran up the beam of light right when Axel entered the ship. Gar noticed the intruder and the gun turret on the building started firing upon Wanyenyekevu. Aldib and Joy quickly destroyed the turret as Joy created an electrical blast. Then 10 G-ships broke formation and quickly returned fire to the rest of the men Aldib, Joy, and Amardad forced their way into the tower. The people from the different towns and villages started running frantically away from the scene, as more men showed up. Another group broke off the formation as Wanyenyekevu himself moved towards the opening. Seeing the body being lowered, he radioed the speedster to find the ship as pilot so they could land the ship, but they couldn't find the ship as pilot. Wanyenyekevu radio Aldib, they can't seem to find the pilot of the ship. Amardad, overhearing the conversation, seated herself in front of one of the computers, and started reading a TS operating system as Aldib grabbed one guy inside the tower. Tell me, who is driving that ship, and where is he? The man didn't say a word. Aldib shot the man in his left knee. The man yelled in pain, fuck you. Aldib asked him again, but the man said nothing. He shot the man in his right knee. Amardad yelled, hold on. Then radio to the speedster, the door is invisible. Pressing a few keys on the keyboard. It's opened now. The man reached for his weapon as Aldib had his back turned, listening to Amardad, and a loud blast fired. Aldib and Amardad turned to see that Joy had shot the man in the back of the head as he was attempting to shoot Aldib. Grace found the pilot and forced him to land that ship. Shooted Aldib, then looked at Joy, damn, he got distracted. Thanks, baby. You just saved my life. The body stopped descending from the ship, it rotated accordingly and landed near the lake. Forcing the men out of the ship as a large door opened up. Wanyenyekevu stood there atop one of the doors as the rest of his warriors landed their G-ships nearby. Jom and about 20 men approached Wanyenyekevu. Scratching his head, he said. All Abenian technology and weaponry but not one Abenian is here. Daniel entered the spaceship and peeled the gel of one of the individual inside. Daniel hit the man on his back, and the person started to breathe. He was fragile, and his breathing was faint. Daniel yelled out to Wanyenyekevu, Wanyenyekevu. They are alive, but we need help peeling this gel off. The people from the towns and villages stood by watching, and Wanyenyekevu said to one man. You. The guy pointed to himself. Yes, what is your name? The man said, Sanchez, I need you to gather some men. Wanyenyekevu paused and yelled back at Daniel. How many people are in there? Daniel said. Over a 200. Turning back to the man, Wanyenyekevu said. Get all these people and go help the man. Inside. And the man did just as Wanyenyekevu ordered. The people were confused about what was happening. Thinking that they had just been saved, in the back of their minds, but they asked themselves was this man just as evil as the last tyrant. Wanyenyekevu radio, he need to transport over a 200 people back to Madina al-Tanwir. The bus driver that Zubin saved, told Zubin, the bus we use every morning can carry plenty of them to your camp, and there are more at the depot, well as Skycraft, we will be more than happy to drive them there. Zubin Radio to Wanyenye que vu, give us a few minutes, we will have more than we need. The old man and his wife, along with the people on the cruiser, guided Zubin and the rest of the warriors to the bus depot. On their way there, the old man, teary-eyed, asked, why would you save us from our oppressor, Wadipu and Abeni B6? Who are we to receive such a reward, or what are they searching for? Zubin smiled, it is our leader, a very pro and spiritual leader, who has led us to salvation, to enlightenment, and Sabaoth. It is a who question what is going on here, who is his people? The old man said, H.I.S. people? Is a Wakatilian? Zubin, pointing at Wanyenye que vu, that him there, isn't it obvious? The old man said, okay, yes, but we mustn't journey down to the abyss, at least not now, if you honor this man, don't let him go down there, at least not tonight. Zubin Radio Aldib, he was just advised that it would not be wise, to let Wanyenye que vu go down in that all that they are calling the abyss, at least not tonight. Aldib said, why is that? Zubin said. He was only advised that it would not be wise for him to go down there, at least not tonight. Aldib said, ILLC what he can do. Aldib is unsure what to do. I tell Joy and Jom, with a few other warriors, what was said to him, and they approach Wanyenye que vu. Please, we do not know what is down there, but we were advised not to allow you to go down until morning. Wanyenye que vu said, whatever is down there, he can handle it, and it'll be alright. Jom looked at Wanyenye que vu, I feel you should wait until morning. Wanyenye que vu smiled, okay, ILL we my free. That night, they pulled 395 people from the spaceship. Upon listening to the advice of his friends, everyone but Wanyenye que vu went down into the abyss, and pushed out an additional 365 people that were alive. All night long, a rumor spread through the land, the entire territory was shut down as the people rushed to reach the location of the abyss. By 6 a.m., the bus started arriving, moving all the people from the ship and the abyss back to Madina al-Tanwir. The local volunteered and began taking people to Madina al-Tanwir, and the rest began taking some of the local back home. The last bus left about 1 p.m. Wanyenye que vu camped out at the opening with 15 of his warriors. Wanyenye que vu watched the last bus leave, and many of the local had gone home. Trié and weary, he decided to weigh one more day to venture into the abyss. HIS warriors were sitting by a campfire while the women prepared food, given to them by the local. Jom walked toward Wanyenye que vu, about 20 more minutes and you can eat, you have to be tired. Wanyenye que vu said, yes, I am. Scratching his head and yawning, Wanyenye que vu repeated himself. Yes, I am. Closing his eyes for a second, Wanyenye que vu said, I'm too tired to even think about the abyss and ETS content, but as soon I get up, we all shall see what it is, that they didn't want me to see. Jom said, I am curious how well. Enjoying a great meal and a few minutes of discussing what had happened that day, Wanyenye que vu finally went to sleep that evening at 4 p.m. Wanyenye que vu finally woke up at 6 a.m., everyone approached the abyss. He left 2 men up top while he and the otter headed down the abyss using the G-ships. They descended slowly down the deep room with their lights on about 200 feet as they all looked around. This is an enormous place, echoed Jom's voice. Wanyenye que vu shook his head, yeah, pretty much, what Kenji said. A few warriors landed, some on fin the lights, or something in here. Jom ordered his warriors. Would you like for me to turn the lights on? Everyone was up in arms until they saw a large, computerized female face appear in front of them. My name is Abla. I didn't mean to startle you. Would you like for me to turn on the lights? Wanyenye que vu said, my name is Wanyenye que vu, what is this place? Abla said, this is a research and development center where we study and document way to eradicate the Wakatilian SDNA, codename New Willy Lynch. This floor research and test synthetic drew and compare different DNA strains. Abla turned on the lights behind her, this is where we collect Wakatilian, using their 9 DNA series, we camp un point and find the most mutated cells in their body. The Wakatilian are dropped here in a protective shell, and we draw blood from each individual. A conveyor belt started to run a continued, they are then judged by age, weight, height, geographical location, and sex, and taken to the second floor for manipulation and sexual exploration. At the end of the conveyor belt was a small hole, and they hollered a door unlock itself and open right next to the conveyor belt. The lights on the second floor turned on everyone got off their ships, walked towards the door, and began walking down the stair. Abla continued, this is the manipulation department, codenamed, divide and conquer. Here we devise way to allow Wakatilian to destroy each other by using psychological means to create self-hatred. Teaching them to disrespect their women, molest children, rape, drug use and abuse, alcoholism, and then we replace some of them into their respected community. As they reached the bottom of the stair, blue lights turned on, one by one. These blue lights were on top of tubular glass of differences encased with people in them, covered in a transparent gel. Embryo, as well as some Wakatilian of different ages, appeared in them. Abla continued, a one que vues had seemed to sink into his chest and his eyes were red up, synthetic drew are used to control them and in a lucrative pornographic broadcast located downstairs. Walking past the last roll of enclosed tube, one que vu looked into the eyes of an elderly man suspended in the casing and puis sat down, feeling as if he had failed him. Tears were now rolling down his eyes. A bright light was turned on, covering the entire floor, revealing to the off-body. One que vu fell to his knees in disbelief and yelled in a horrible cry an hour of before. He ran up to see 10 dead Wakatilian, primarily naked and chained to table, some had needle in their arms or a white powdery substance stuck to their nose. Abla continued, here, oui. One que vu ran from table to each body, shaking for a pulse, but no pulse was found. One que vu looked up at Jom, stay and find out more, he'll be back. The rest of the warriors followed him. One que vu turned around and yelled with so changé. Stay fucking here. One que vu ran back up the steps, jumped on his cruiser, and drove to shore. He fell to the ground, yelling, cursing, and swinging his arms angrily, eventually crying himself to sleep. One que vu found himself cover up and woke up to a baby crying, and his warriors by his side. Jom holding the baby, all the information was gathered, but there was one level that was tightly sealed, even Abla was unauthorized to open it. One que vu stood up, he wanted to apologize for my word and action. It was un like me, and he repent to you for it. Please forgive me. One que vu looked around him, and to the of people surrounded him, what is this, and whose baby are you holding? Jom said, the people are here to thank you for destroying their oppressor, and the baby was found in a cage. One que vu looked at the baby and saw it was from the same tribe and clan AOBE. He turned to talk to the people, but they couldn't hear him. Jom handed him a bullhorn, my friends, my name is one que vu. We have much to talk about, but we must bury my people, the crowd yelled, we will bury them, for you. In tears once again, he said, thank you, for it would have been challenging for me to do it. One que vu handed Jom the bullhorn and said, de Karish. Jom looked at him strangely, and one que vu smiled, the baby's name, will be, de Karish. The crowd divided themselves into groups and began to bury the Wakatilian people that were in the abyss. While one que vu separated himself from everyone taking his ship on top of Atoll Mountain, and wrote, why? In the beginning, we were people of different beliefs. We spoke several different languages. Yes, we were great in our own way. The largest continent in the world. Even today. Some even refer to her as a girl, a woman, the mother. Africa. Rich include gold, diamonds, and pearl. The beginning of civilization was started in her. Yet, having so many accomplishments, got credit for none. Creating pyramid, that are scientific wonders of today. Numerous things, that are even used today. Wakatilian today, Negro, Niga. But, African back then. Let's just call it yesterday. Still unique, different, very simple people. Still not given credit, that they argue. Why? Even back then, there are so many people that he could name. From the past to the present, but he won't, for we all know their names. My problem is, why? Why should any human being have to defend himself? For being a certain race, creed, or color? The past is truly, the past. That we learn from. Ignorance played a major part in the European arts. Which told they were superior, back then. There are even some of those, that think that way today. We were murdered, but it was safe, killing a fly. We were beaten, much like I've seen, some people train a dog. Women were raped, children molested, men tested. Just considered simply a stock. Why? Now, since that time, we celebrated your holiday. Fight in your wars. This thing called, the 4th of July. But who really won, their independence? Give me liberty or give me death. Someone on said, but whom did they refer to? They got their liberty, we were sentenced to death. All men are treated equal. Except, for those of us, who were considered savage, in those days. Simply, because we couldn't read or write in their language. They couldn't understand us. Did we call them savage? All this for the sake of liberty. They say. But none of it was for us. We fought more wars, but died in vain. Why? Our father, our mother, our children, our ancestors, were murdered. Why? 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 You right not to instill a trade for anion. Just love. The time is now to awaken. Many years we have been miseducated. But we can read and do right, now, and learn about the truth. If no one else teach you the truth, you have you. If he asked you, do you know who you are? If the answer is no, my reply. Why? Red lights flashed on the communicator vibrating on Wanienye que vu SIP. It was OBE who was calling on the emergency channel. Wanienye que vu? Wanienye que vu. Wanienye que vu quickly answered the communicator. Yes, OBE, what is it? Wanienye que vu replié. Look like Wadipu HAS gotten your message, look at your GPS. It's covered in a gigantic mass, I can't even count how many there are. He dead straight to you. Wanienye que vu shouted the battle cry and ordered all civilians out of the region until further notice. Pressing the emergency button on the communicator as the warriors prepared themselves, Wanienye que vu called OBE on his device. When they get here, make sure you are behind them, and kill them as quietly as you can until you are noticed. Then take no mercy, those that survive, we will take mercy on whom about tell us. 2. The feared warriors were ready, and even some civilians joined in to do all they could to help. Yael APR to Wanienye que vu, prepare your men for the abyss, for now, you fight only flesh, but down there, you shall fight only spirit. Fight with honor and no danger, for this battle is not your, but about. And then he disappeared. Only miles away, Wanienye que vu gather all the warriors, open his communicator, and says the survivor's prayer. All who come, that are not evil, and those that survive. He will test their hearts, and let Sabaoth decide. Amen. Turning to the civilian, should to kill, however, if they survive, it's because their hearts might be pure, not evil. However, trust none of them until he see them first. Sabaoth will make way for his people to live. OBE was miles behind Wadipu, and Wadipu was an hour of their presence. OBE and Wanienye que vu sent out all speedster to minimize Wadipu army by 10 pairs before Wadipu reached Wanienye que vu. The speedster were called back to rest once the fighting began. Wadipu was surrounded, and his men didn't have a chance. With OBE, Elia, Daniel, Grace and their men in the rear and Wanienye que vu and the rest were in the front, they devastated Wadipu and his men. The speedster were called back in to finish the battle. They brought the rest of the men back to Wanienye que vu and touched them and decided their fate. They chose 40 men to live, and the rest died on the spot. There stood Ouadipo with a broken leg and gunshot to the shoulder. We finally meet, Ouadipo said Wanyenye que vu. Who are you? Ouadipo replied. I am the child of the Most High, who was sent to rescue his people from people like you. This battle was meant to be from the first time I made you just son to the oldest, and it was me and my men who had the honor of killing all of them. I see what you have been doing to my people, and the pain is great, but I will not be the one who kill you. Sabaoth's children shall have that honor. Ouadipo replied, fuck you, and your damn people, and spit on the ground in front of Wanyenye que vu. Interrogate him for all and any information needed, and let the people have him. Wanyenye que vu said to Jom, I turned and walked away. After days of interrogating, the men, women, and children all attacked and killed Ouadipo. Wanyenye que vu me obe, and discussed what to do with the dead. Wanyenye que vu was sitting down a Obe stood up. Obe, have you discovered your gift yet? Obe said, no, but I've been fasting and training when it comes, I guess it will come. Wanyenye que vu took out his Colt 45 and shot Obe. Obe yelled, what you do that for? Wanyenye que vu said. A few times I've seen you eat and stabbed and you didn't even know it, and Sabaoth never showed me in any vision of harm coming to you. Plus, look at you. You've been standing in a pile of burning red hot coal for at least 10 minutes, and you didn't say a word, and by the way, when he shot you, you didn't feel a thing, you just reacted to me shooting you. He grabbed the bullet from off the ground and gave it to him, and one more thing. Tapping on his earpiece, Jom, bring, the carriage. Grace approached. Them with the baby, here is your kinsman, may grows up to be your greatest gift, a son. Obe was excited and happy and started crying, a Wanyenye que vu walked away and started praising Sabaoth. Late that day, Wanyenye que vu called everyone together, it is now time to enter the abyss. Many stayed on top and watched a Wanyenye que vu and 50 of his men descended to the first level, leaving 10 of his men. Then the second level, where he left 10 more, and on to the third level. Wanyenye que vu, looking around, noticed the place had been clean, and there was no evidence that anything had ever been down there. On the third level, they came to what appeared to be a door made of boulder with a sign of an unknown language. Hades. Amardad interpreted the language. Wanyenye que vu got on the communicator to the men on each level above them, gather up anything we missed and start setting charge to blow this damn place to kingdom come, a they all began looking for lever and switch to see if they could find a way to open the door. Obe started hitting the door with his hand. Still nothing. Wanyenye que vu order everyone to stop. He have an ID. He took the sand from around his neck and grabbed his canteen. He put one drop of the content into the canteen and ordered everyone to wipe their weapon with the water from the canteen and then wipe their exposed skin with it. Obe wiped his hand, arms, and neck with the content from the canteen and just touched the door, which turned into a puff of smoke. Well, that was easy, said Obe. A narrow stairway appeared, they all headed down, but Wanyenye que vu stopped the men, only my strongest warriors in Sabaoth will be able to come, for I fear that what is down here is truly demonic. His strongest, fearful, and ready warriors stood there, Obe, Grace, Mercy, Joy, Jom, Elia, Elisha, Daniel, and Aldib, with Wanyenye que vu taking the lead. The stairway was 5 feet wide and was spiraling downward. Strange noise were surrounding them, and every few feet a torch mounted to the cave walls. A liquefied substance was oozing down the walls, and the smell was unbearable. As they reached the bottom of the stairway, there was an enormous pit 200 yards wide and a forever circle of darkness, followed by a level of boiling red fiery pit of lava. This pattern repeatedly continued, going deeper and deeper downward. Looking up, they saw the same pattern repeating itself upward. As they walked through the darkness, they could hear a sizzling sound, followed by scream. Reaching for their flashlight, they saw little some were close to touching them and turning into puff of smoke as the warriors were being handled. Wanyenye Kevu said, they cano even touch the blood of Mshika in the sun. Pointing their flashlight in different area, they could see the face of some of the Idu creature peeking out. And looking at them. The sounds of movement surrounded them, and they were silent as they hid down, looking and observing when Aldib said, I see why people say, go to hell. Jom said. Only you would say such a thing, in a time like this. Shrugging his shoulder, Aldib said, no, I'm being for real. This place is horrible. Wanyenye Kevu interrupted, focus. This is a place one must truly stay focused and remain in the spirit. They walked to the end of the cavern, where they found a mound of rock at the edge. There was an opening that looked like a large well. There stood a face with only ETS eyes peeking out at them. What the fuck are you doing here again, Wanyenye Kevu? Wanyenye Kevu said, again, then he talked about his dream, he had years ago, The creature interrupted, fuck that, get out. I raised from the hole, it stood 10 feet tall, and it was Idu, horn grew out of ETS head, and bear-like claws grew out of ETS hand. It shooted something, and 2 millions of horses quickly surrounded them. Wanyenye Kevu and his warriors quickly formed a circle with their back turned against each other. Who are you? And how do you know my name? The beast said, I am Acedia, the commander and ruler of Slot. I am well aware of your foolish, and today, it will stop. The beast shooted to the minion, and they attacked. Wanyenye Kevu and his warriors attack the minion, they turn into puff of dust as the warriors fought back using their weapon and shift. Wanyenye Kevu gave command every 10 minutes before he ordered Elisha to form a dome when it was time, et counted down, 5,43. Now, and everyone got in it. All the creature leaped at them bull landed on top of Elisha's dome a Wanyenye Kevu poured a drop from the canteen onto Elisha's hand, and all the creature that came in contact with the dome turned into dust. The entire dome was covered in soot, and it blinded them within the dome. Wanyenye Kevu said. Lower the dome, buste alert. I lowered the dome, they were all covered with soot. They ran to the stairway, Bu Acedia stood in front of them. Wanyenye Kevu stood in front and ordered everyone to wipe off their weapon and reply the liquid from the canteen to their weapon and themselves while he stalled the demon. Are you afraid that he will destroy you? Wanyenye Kevu said. Acedia raised in anger, you silly man, your flesh, he can jump into your body and make you kill yourself. Wanyenye Kevu, Jokili, now, you wouldn't do that. You're too lazy, remember ole commandé and rule of laziness. You take honor in something so ridiculous. Daniel ended Wanyenye Kevu the canteen I looked up at the creature. Let me clean this off for your destruction, if you don't mind, and let's have at it. Acedia replied, you're puny little weapon, can't harm me. Wanyenye Kevu shooted, IMPI, and within second, shooted, Iwa. They all used their gift and powers against Acedia it yelled out in pain before them all with one force and in one moment, they destroyed Acedia into a pile of dust. The dust blew away slowly, and an earthquake shook the foundation. Wanyenye Kevu shooted, quickly. Up the stair, this place is his domain and this fina turned into dust itself. Boulders started falling into the lava below as they ran up the stairway. Aldib and Wanyenye Kevu were the last ones to come out. Everyone out and get ready to blow this place up. Shooted Wanyenye Kevu over his earpiece. Clearing everyone out on each level and setting the charge for 5 minutes for each level, they heard the explosion as they all made it out of the abyss. They all ran to their ships and drove as fast as they could before hearing the last one, and the entire imploded, creating a crater the size of the abyss. Circling back around, they looked down to see the bottom of the crater. Phil Wadipu and is dead in that hole and cover it up. Said Wanyenye Kevu. Returning to the city, Wanyenye Kevu ordered everyone to get cleaned up and rest. The next morning, Wanyenye Kevu and his men, using their gift, also took part in helping the people rebuild their town. Speedster helped gather the rest of Wadipu who dead and dumped their body into the abyss. The people called the place till this day, El mal ciertament perecera, which means the evil shall surely perish. Astonished at what they saw, many civilians joined one que US Army. After war, they bury one que US people on the opposite side of town. It took 6 weeks to bury all the body from the abyss, and they were buried in a beautiful park created by the local Daynamed, El Mar de Dolor, which means, the Sea of Pain. There was a glorious celebration in honor of the people who died there, and the people performed the funeral in the Wakatilian tradition that one que vu told them. This celebration lasted for 25 days on May and was called Watus Asakupunzika, which translated His people now rest and is honored every year. 2 months after the abyss was seized, many of one que vu's warriors departed to find their family members. Within 6 months, they started on exodus back to Medina al-Tanwir. Heading back, many of them heard of one que vu's famed. They were also bringing back seed, animal, and family members. 47 warriors had left, but over 2,000 came back. A tray of warriors living and protecting Sabaoth's land reached from Medina al-Tanwir to Colonia Anahuac. 387 miles were protected to the point where the people started feeling free again. Within their borders was Laguna de Bustillo, a vast lake that was perfect for fishing. An irrigation system was used to help farm most of this region. At the southwest banks of Laguna de Bustillo, there was the city of Colonia Anahuac. They used Colonia Anahuac much like a huge flea market, where the whole bartering system was awakened and utilized once again. By reconstructing Highway 5, 16, 21, and Del Ejido Freeway. Heading west of Colonia Anahuac, there stood Sudaco Otemoc surrounded by Highway 21, a centralized location or the region ESAT. A beautiful landscape mixed with grassland and desert with various mountains overlooking the entire area. Going in any direction would be a breath of fresh air. 25 miles to the north on Highway 5 was a stretch of land that led to the twin cities of Colonia Alvaro Obregón and Granja El Venado, one que vu claimed all the land al Tierra de Dio or Sabaoth's land. It was just the complete opposite of the area where one que vu was born and raised, but et finally grew to of the place, unlike Louisiana, there was no humidity. Tornado were not a common factor. But the monsoon season brought back memory of home at times. The pass from Medina al-Tanwir to this new area called home was called one que vu estray. 80% of the people stayed and learned the way of one que vu and served Sabaoth. The rest were left alone and in peace but honored one que vu a great man. They moved in different directions but always stayed west of one que vu tray for safety reasons. During the cleanup and destruction of the abyss, all the Druids were destroyed except the natural marijuana was kept and used by one que vu. Et didn't consider it a drug bu en HERB. The people were unfamiliar with farming, gardening, medicine, computerized equipment, or the abundant technology. Therefore, they were taught how to use it. They quickly learned to treat glaucoma, reverse the carcinogenic effect of tobacco, improve lung health, stop epileptic seizure, and decrease the symptom of a disorder called Dravet syndrome. Et taught the people how to become herbalism led to the introduction of hemp, a popular commodity amongst the people. The green land were now used for farming, and the people felt peace for the first time in a long time. They used Medina al-Tanwir a training base only, but the people living in this new area raised family and had a comfortable life. The Wakatilian that were captured from the ship and the abyss took some time to even with all the healers, but they eventually were healed from their disease, addiction, and phobia. Many Wakatilian of the men, women, and children alike had PTSD and refused to return to their homes a sense of embarrassment violation. They, too, stayed in the region, learning and teaching their way of life to the people. It took the Wakatilian a while to adjust to Computant and Anakata, who worshipped Sabaoth. Once it was proven, they, too, received gifts and powers from Sabaoth that were unimaginable. The population grew to 769,000 men, women, and children, all qualified to be called fierce warriors. These people became known as mestizo. The end.